And we're looking at history talks with Peter McGarry and also a journalist from the Examiner next. Good morning. You're listening to Galway Talks with John Morley. We're doing history talks now, and I'm joined in studio by Peter McGarry, who's the author of this book, Falling Stars, Lost Stories from the Shannon Airport Crashes. And we're also joined in studio by former journalist with the Examiner and author of Send Them Home Sweating. That's Vincent Power. You're both very welcome onto the programme today. And Peter, I'll start with you first. Talk to us about the Hugo de Groot plane crash of 1958 off the Galway coast.
Yeah, the Hugo de Groot crash took place in August 1958, and 99 passengers and crew were lost in the accident. I brought out a book at the start of the year, as you said, called Falling Stars, and it was focused on 5 major crashes at Shannon between 1946 to 1961. But the orphan child really in this has been the Hugo de Groot. It was the second KLM crash in the vicinity of Ireland in this decade. So the flight had originated in Amsterdam. It was bound for New York, but as you know, back in that stage of aviation, all traffic had to stop in Shannon to refuel because the aircraft hadn't arranged. So there were some Irish passengers who actually boarded in Shannon. It was primarily Dutch and Americans on board this flight. Now, I will say one thing, that when I started researching the Falling Stars book, and we looked at KLM in particular, to say the very least, I was shocked about the track record of KLM. In the 1950s, they had multiple crashes. The one in which Vincent will talk about in a moment, in 1954 in Shannon, which was bizarre to say the least. They also had crashes in the Far East, the North Sea. So 1950s was not a good time for KLM. KLM is the Dutch national carrier. The aircraft involved with the crash in 1958 took off at 5 minutes past 3 in the morning of the 16th of August and was flying on a route to New York, following a course of 278 degrees, I think. And it was lost approximately 105 miles west of Slane Head. Now, it is a big thing for Galway people, and I suppose that's why we're here today, because of the impact on the local community. They never recovered the large amount of physical wreckage from the crash, because it was approximately 600 feet deep, and the diving technology wasn't there at the time to do a forensic retrieval of the wreckage. They initially thought it might have been a terrorist attack involving a bomb. This is the first theory, and somehow they were linking this to events that were taking place in Iraq and the assassination of King Faisal. They retrieved 34 part member bodies of the total of 99. They were brought to the quays by 3 French trawlers which were in the vicinity at the time. And from this, they concluded that they were ruling out the explosive theory. So they settled on the most likely cause. It was really like Occam's razor, the principle of Occam's razor. There were a number of incidences with Lockheed Constellations at the time of oil getting contaminated with metallic material from gearboxes and superchargers. So they think the propeller oversped, it shed a blade, the blade came through the hull of the aircraft, probably severed lines. They didn't even have time to put out a call. The last radio contact with the Hugo de Groot was a request for them to relay a message to an overhead TWA flight, and that was the last radio contact with them. It went silent after that. There was an interesting aspect to it, is that when they retrieved the bodies on board these French trawlers, when they landed them on the pier, they discovered 3 wristwatches, and the wristwatches were all stopped. I think it was either 5 or 10 minutes after the time of the last radio call, so they were able to zone in on the approximate time. The other slightly odd aspect of it is that even though no radio call went out, and they assumed that it was a catastrophic event that took place very quickly, one of the bodies retrieved was a child, was a boy, and there was a life jacket on it. So this is kind of a strange dimension to the explanation for a cause. So if the child had a life jacket on, something was happening maybe slower than what they thought was happening. But all in all, KLM had a truly shocking experience in their business in the 1950s. It was also the most Galway residents are well aware of the fact that Bohermore Cemetery contains 22 of the bodies that they couldn't identify. There were 11 repatriated to Holland. But Vincent will just expand on the other KLM connection, which was in Shannon in 1954.
Just before I do, Vincent, can you just, I know you're looking to interview Galway people who have memories of that Hugo de Groot crash as well.
Yeah, two reasons behind this. There's my YouTube channel is very simply called Pete's World, and that channel has documentaries which support the book. There were documentaries done before the book came out. So I'm toying with the notion of, first of all, putting an additional chapter into the book Falling Stars, Hugo de Groot crash, even though technically it wasn't Shannon. It came out of Shannon, certainly. But I'm also looking to put together a mini documentary, 20-minute documentary. So I really would love to connect with Galway people who have, either through themselves or maybe their parents, memories of the events in Galway in 1958. So that's the reason I'm sitting in the chair today.
What's the best way of them making contact with you for that?
It's very easy. They can contact me through the YouTube channel. It's just called Pete's World. You could pop a message there or get in touch with me, maybe through Galway Bay. And it's as simple as that at this day and age. It's quite easy to connect with people.
Yeah. Vincent, it was a disturbing trend and pattern, these crashes, and you're going to talk to us a bit about the 54 one.
I must say good morning, and good morning to all your listeners. I found this particularly compelling and particularly intriguing tale, and working with Peter and some of the research. Again, a KLM Super Constellation, and for listeners who wouldn't really know, it was quite a special aircraft. It was a very attractive, sleek looking aircraft. Of course, propeller engined aircraft, 4 engines. But when I say it, all commentators in aviation, I suppose experts over the years, would always comment on its beautiful aerodynamic design with, I suppose it's been described as a dolphin-shaped nose, but very attractive aircraft. Again, unfortunately, it was another one of these tragedies that occurred between that 10-year period between the mid-1950s and I suppose the mid-60s. But in that 10-year period, you had about 6 major crashes. But this one is particularly compelling because taken off from Shannon Airport, again, similar to the Henry de Groot, it was on a refuelling stopover. It was travelling from Rome to New York. Had stopped as normal as all those aircraft did at Shannon for refuelling. Passengers had been in the terminal doing what all passengers would be doing, waiting to board the aircraft again. They had been shopping, taking, at the time, of course, Irish coffees was all the rage, but they had boarded the aircraft with a very, very experienced pilot, Captain Adrian Verrier. Less than a minute after takeoff, within sight of the airport, it came down and crashed into a mud bank and it was stranded there. It didn't explode, but the fuel tanks were ruptured. There was a leak of fumes from the fuel tanks, which asphyxiated, suffocated about half of the passengers. The tide was also incoming as well. But passengers, aided by the captain and the crew, did manage to bundle into life rafts and into 2 rubber dinghies and attempted to try to save themselves. The most intriguing aspect of that crash was that one particular crewman, a navigator called Johan Thiemann, a Dutchman, decided he's going to have a go for it. He's going to jump and swim. So he swam to the shore, and through a combination of errors, the airport did not know about the crash. They didn't know anything had happened, even though it happened almost within sight. This man, who had swam through the mud, braved his life, risked his life, nonchalantly almost walked into the terminal covered in mud, and announced to everybody that he'd just come from a plane crash less than half a mile away, which is
a terrific movie.
It's the stuff of Hollywood movies, really.
It really is.
Absolutely. And it's called Falling Stars, the book. Peter, lost stories from the Shannon Airport crashes. Where's the best
Exactly.
place of getting it?
Yeah, right now the very best place to get it is Pilot.ie. You can talk to my friend Jenny up there, and she'll dispatch it for you the next day. So that's Pilot.ie. And thanks a million for everything that Jenny has been doing for us. It's in a number of outlets, but that's the best one to get it.
Brilliant. And that is all from the programme for today. Tomorrow morning